Right, good evening, everybody, and thank you, first of all, Alta, for putting the presentation together. This evening, we are having a presentation by Dr. Martinez Jordan. He has studied obviously his family history. He's a publisher. He's published lots of books. He lives in Bloemfontein, and it's interesting that his heraldry there is developed himself. I'm moderately interested in heraldry because English heraldry, it's always divided between the father and the son, and the herald, the design belongs to one single person, not to a family. But European heraldry, it belongs to a family. But Martinez has designed it himself. It said it took him a long time to get it through, and it's actually 3 families. And I'm hoping that he's going to tell us all about it. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Martinez to hear his interesting story.
Thank you indeed, Alta Griffiths, for the invite to address this illustrious audience by means of this Zoom meeting. Let's hope that the technical aspects of this meeting is also kind to us tonight. A sincere congratulations and well done to the management and members of the virtual branch, namely EGGSA, to celebrate your 20th anniversary this year. We are all aware how the cyberspace has changed and grown over the last 20 years. In partner with the EGGSA, we must also congratulate the big brother, the GGSA, with their 60th anniversary. As I was preparing for this talk, I found myself at stages thinking in circles. That made me call a few members of the Jordan family and ask them what topics would they like to hear in this talk with the title, The Jordan Story. Fortunately, without knowing what I had jotted down as a starter, we were all on the same page regarding the contents of this talk. David and Alta, ladies and gentlemen, I hope to do justice to the Jordan story, having to cover, amongst others, no less than 4,000 years of history, heritage, and of course genealogy in plus minus 40 minutes tonight, including 67 slides. Perhaps it's fitting to dedicate this talk to all our ancestors, which in no uncertain manner have lived their lives through centuries, for us to be able to present a talk with a theme, the Jordan story. Our contents of tonight is I'll briefly just refer to my initial interest, which I've been asked many times, which could have triggered what we started in 1988 and not knowing where we'd be now in 2024. The past, that's from Adam and Eve, right through Reuben, Gaul, Béziers, 970 after Christ. 1160 was the start of the Waldensian movement, and then 1688 when the Huguenots came out. And then the present, we look at what's happened, a couple of dates from 2002 till 22. And then we've got some future projects from 24 onwards. And then in conclusion, that's what we're going to look at tonight. My interest was subconsciously enhanced by growing up with a photo of our 4 generations and a framed print of a Jordan crest in my grandfather's entrance to their house, as you can see. I'm the baby on my dad's lap at the age of 3. In the 70s, my nearest reference to the hamlet Bella Etoile in the South Luberon, Provence, where our ancestor and his family originate from, was Grenoble and Lyon, as you can see on the map there. Lyon right to the north, and then Grenoble, and then right at the bottom, Marseille. So if you can picture the south of France, the Provence region, Lyon going down to Grenoble, and then Marseille at the bottom. It was just referred those days as the southeast of Grenoble and Lyon. That's where we came from. Glad to say that today the information has become much more accurate. During the latter part of the 70s, the previous century, if you like, my father's brother Atti gave my dad a copy of 8 pages, which was bounded of what was compiled by Christoffel C. de Villiers in 1893. The copy this is just a copy of the book my uncle gave to my dad, of which he found in Roland Street those days in the 70s as an example. Now, if we look at the past, from Adam and Eve till 1995, markers in the past which had an influence on the Jourdain bloodline, we can look at from Adam and Eve to Reuben, Gaul, which was the southern part of France was called Gaul those days, Béziers, which is a village where our surname originated from, in 1160, as I said, the start of the Valdensian movement, and then 1688, the story of the Huguenots. Now, in our second edition of the Jourdain Register, in volume 1, Hercules Malan and myself, we published volume 1, which we call Van Adam en Eva tot Jourdain. The fact that we can link the genealogy from Adam and Eve down to Reuben and then to Gaul, and later link up with the Valdensian movement and eventually the Jourdain bloodline, I would say is rather significant. If we look at the generations since Adam and Eve up to 9 after the birth of Christ, where Cherusci was a descendant of Reuben, and as we have it, the indications are that he was the first of the descendants of Reuben that was born in France. So from Adam and Eve till 9 after Christ, the birth, there was 28 generations. And then in the register, we've got from 1450 to 1688, 8 generations, as you can see, and then 88 to 2003, 12 generations. That gives us 51 generations in the genealogical register. Adding the 28 generations in the Bible, that gives us today 79 generations from Adam and Eve up to the latest generation in 2022, if we are to be correct. Here you can see 2 maps of Israel. The one on the right-hand side, you can see is the area Reuben, where Reuben was located. And if you can see, if it's clear enough to you, just to the northeast of Reuben's name, there is a little village called Béziers. We'll get to that now. Just take note of that. Reuben's sons moved to the south of France, which was then known as Gaul. Reuben was the 23rd generation since Adam and Eve. Yair Davidi has published several books and articles about the Israelite origins of the Western world. On a lighter and modern note, but certainly part of the Jourdain history, Hilton Jourdain was a prominent South African soccer player in the 90s. His coach then said to him, since the significance of his surname Jourdain, he was given the nickname River. In Chronicles chapter 6, verse 78, we read, and on the other side, Jordan by Jericho, on the east side of Jordan, were given them out of the tribe of Reuben, Béziers. That's that little village we referred to that I showed you on the map just now in the wilderness with the suburbs. And in Ezekiel chapter 48:31, we read, and the gates of the city shall be after the names of the tribes of Israel, 3 gates northwards, 1 gate of Reuben, 1 of Judah, and 1 of Levi. Here you've got the map. On the left-hand side where that red dot is, you can see that's Béziers, which we showed on the earlier slide, which is in the area where Reuben found himself. And on the right-hand side, sorry, you can see Béziers, which is in the southwest of France, close to the Spain border. You can see Montpellier, if you can recognize the area. Now, Béziers in Israel was the first place to be attacked. Well, actually, today it falls in the Jordan country. The Crusaders got to the town on July 1209 and burnt the Cathedral of Nazaré. A few parts of the cathedral survived and repairs started in 1215. The restoration, along with the rest of the city, continued until the 15th century. A city of refuge set apart by Moses for the Reubenites and located in the plain country east of the Jordan. Now, the significance of the two Béziers that's indicated on the two maps. Interesting, the name Béziers is one of three examples in the Jordan history where a name was given to a second place, the similar name in case Béziers, which had reference to previous historical incidents in the early bloodline. Béziers in France was established in 575 before the birth of Christ. The significance of Béziers in France is that this is the place where the surname Jordan originated from. 970 AC was a period where the citizens of Gaul, today known as France, had to get a surname which those days nobody had. The family with the name Thiessen had to decide on a surname. To them, the decision was taken that knowing the history of the Jordan River in Israel, they took on the surname Jordan. One of the four sons eventually landed up amongst the Valdensians in the Lubron Valley, and so the bloodline started. I might just mention here that the name Jordan of the Jordan River or the Jordan River, Dan is a place in the north of Israel where the Jordan River originates from. And the word Yor means downward, stream down. So that's where the name Jordan came from, Jordan, Dan from being the village where you can still visit today, which is the origin of the upper flows of the Jordan River, and then Yor meaning downward, stream down to where it lands up in the sea. Yeah, you've got a map on the left-hand side is the emblem and the symbol of the Valdensian movement or the Vaudois movement. And on the right-hand side, there's a map. You can see Milan on the right-hand side to the right, and then more to the center is Turin. And if you can see then to the left here at the bottom is Torre Pellice. Yeah, Torre Pellice is almost walking distance from the border between Italy and France. The Valdensian movement had its origin in 1173 in Lyon, which we refer to in slide 4. Just as a footnote, not all Huguenot families that came to South Africa were of Valdensian descent. Other surnames with Valdensian history that can be found in South Africa today is Cordier, Durant, Fore, Hugo, Hubert, Lombard, Malan, Meyer, Olivier, and Roux. In slide 62, later we will refer to the surname Roux again. On the map, you can see Turin and to the west, Torre Pellice. The Angrogne valleys where Torre Pellice is was a hideout of the Valdensian people. Torre Pellice is close to the French border from where the Valdensians moved over to the Lubron Valley. The Valdensians, like the Protestants later, was not welcome in Italy and France. However, there was a few places in Europe where the Valdensians were welcome. Here's a map indicating the village La Bastide-des-Jourdains. There's a photo there of the Bastide. Yeah, the La Bastide-des-Jourdains was built by two Jourdain brothers in the Lubron Valley in Provence. It can be found just to the west of the Italian border, where the Valdensian movement mainly settled between 1207 and 1247. On the map, you can see La Motte d'Aix, where the Jordan ancestor Isabel Long was born in 1666. I'll show you in the next slide where the ancestor John was born. Here's a map where you can see La Bastide is not shown here, but it's just, you can see La Motte d'Aix, that's where our ancestor was born. And then just to the right of that, you see the Bella Etoile. Now, Bella Etoile and La Motte d'Aix is, in today's terms, is the 2-3 kilos from each other. And that is where our ancestor came from. And he was born in 1660, ancestor John. Now, Bella Etoile is birthplace of ancestor John. It's one of the hamlets belonging to the village of Saint Martin de la Brasque. You can see that to your bottom. And Bella Etoile is one of the 4 villages of Pays d'Aix. D'Aix referring to water. These villages are Cabrières, which you can see on your left-hand side, La Motte, and Saint Martin de la Brasque. There's today, unfortunately, not much left of Bella Etoile if you physically go there. In 1686, a Dutch East Indian Company offered a free boat trip for the Huguenots to come and assist Simon van der Stel with his farming enterprise. Please take note that the Huguenot families had to qualify to come by boat. It was not a free for all. Today, when I see on the news the boats crossing the Mediterranean from North Africa to Europe, I cannot help to think about our ancestors' experience 6 months by boat more than 300 years ago, primitive, and as you can think what it was those days. Here's a second example of two places being named the same name. On the map on the left-hand side, you can see Goede Rede where the red dot is. That is the island and the harbor that existed then in 1688, where the boat of the Dutch East Indian Company Bergschina left, where the Jordans were on. On the map on your right-hand side indicates the island Goeree, 1 kilometer off the coast of Dakar on the west coast of Africa. The island is rich in history, but that is where the Dutch East Indian Company boats anchored for refreshments on the way to the Cape with their 6-month trip. This island, Goeree, as it's known today, was named after Goede Rede, the harbor where the Bergschina with the Jordan family left. If we can fast forward 115 years from where the Jordan ancestors was on voyage, Napoleon wrote into what is today known as the French Civil Code that anybody or descendant that had to flee France because of their faith and the Edict of Nantes were welcome back and regain citizenship should they come and stay in France. However, that was revoked in 1995, 192 years later. As a matter of interest, Napoleon is seen as a founder of what we know today as the 3-tier government system around the world. On the photo, you can see there's a picture of Napoleon, and you can see there, we just put in there St. Helena, where Napoleon was banned to, and where he died. And then on the right, you can see he was reburied later in Paris, and that is his coffin that he was reburied into, and it's marble, and you can see people standing there. It's a very high. I had the privilege to be there in 1995 to visit that. Now back to August 1688. The two brothers John, his wife Isabel, and brother Pierre arrive at the Cape having lost their mother John Grange at sea. Passengers who died on board were given a sea burial. John received a farm in Franschhoek, which was then called Olifantshoek. John named his farm Lamotte, referring to his wife's place of birth, Lamotte, as you can remember on the previous slide. Brother Pierre stayed behind at the Cape and later had 2 plots of ground close to where the Parliament is today. On this map of Franschhoek, you can see the flag still symbolizes the elephant, referring to the days when there were many an elephant to be found in what is known today as Franschhoek and earlier Olifantshoek. Here's a picture of the monument, which most of you probably know where it stands if you can visualize that. And to the right is a map of the road of Franschhoek, in Franschhoek. And the eastern boundary of the farm Lamotte was where the Huguenot monument stands today. Today, the original farm is cut up into several small holdings. As a matter of interest, the Jordan ancestor John received plus minus 60 morgen, like some of the other Huguenots, in what is today known as the Franschhoek Valley, was the only Frenchman that named his farm after the village his wife came from, namely Lamotte. The others named the farms from where they came as individuals. A hypothetical question could be asked whether this was an indication of many Jordan descendants that served the communities later by spreading through South Africa and parts of Africa, as we will see when we get to the various lists of the Jordan place names. That's quite interesting. We'll see how I've got a list of places that's named after members of the Jordan family in different communities throughout the world. Now, as part of the, it sounds strange, but as part of the past, we can look at festivals, monuments, reunions. Reunions is not necessary getting a lot of people together and having a good time, or reunion like most of us know it today. It's bringing distant bloodlines together. And examples of that, if we just start with this. Now, here you can see what sometimes happens with a person's original Afrikaans or Dutch Christian name being used in English, and inevitably a nickname to follow. Now you can see there, Anna becomes Anne or Annie, Louis becomes Levis, Karen becomes Barry, very different spellings. Johannes, you can see different spellings, Johnny, Joni. We have a story of a son that always answered his parents when they're being called up. He always said, yep. And that led to the family calling him Yippie. Now, you'll know when you start looking for names and things, it'll be quite a problem trying to find Yippie and work out what his original name was. Here's just an example when we talk about reunions. Is the great-grandson Liam Jordan of Jan Johannes Jordan, which was the founder of Jan van Riebeeck School in Cape Town, reaching out to his ancestors and bigger family. Here we have an example of two cousins that never knew each other in South Africa and never met and weren't really aware of each other. And with the Jordan Facebook page and internet as we know it today, eventually met up in Australia and they had their reunion. This is just a matter of interest when we talk about reunion and people getting together. This is the importance, the surname or the proud some individuals have. I mean, yes, you see a baby cot and the surname Jordan engraved on it. Also, when we talk about reunion and getting together, here's a picture of a book written by Carl Jordan of his experiences in Africa, which is very interesting. Together with this book, unfortunately, I don't have the picture here. Together with this book, another born Jordan, married name was Van Vliet, Clem Van Vliet, wrote a book with a subtitle, Against the Odds, One Woman's Journey to an Unknown Destination. Now, she was originally from Eastern Transvaal, today in Mpumalanga. Her parents died early in her life. And she went to then Rhodesia, the Bulawayo area, and the whole book describes her life, and she became a businesswoman of note in Bulawayo till she eventually retired in Simonstown. Yeah, just when we talk about reunions, well, I thought I'll just add it. This on your left-hand side is a Sarah Susanna Jordan. You can see the time she lived, 1811 to 1900. The importance of this photo, there was a stage where there was a photo taken or a family photo taken of a person after death before burial. And this is an example. If you see I don't have it here, but the bigger photo of where the family, she sits right up, she was made sit, she was dressed. The photo was taken, and after that, the burial took place. Ferdinand Christoffel Jordan, up to now, he became the oldest Jordan, 105 years. He was from the Tennyson district. And then Hendrina Johanna Jordan, she reached the age of 104, passed away 2 years ago. And then on the right-hand side, to me, this photo is such an inspiration. Member of the Jordan family sitting in a wheelchair in the veld. I mean, what courage to do that and go and hunt. This you might find a bit strange when we talk about reunions and getting people together, but I thought I'll put this in. The lightest and smallest paratroop in the history of the Union was Rifleman Timothy Jordan, only 1.3 meters height, weighed 42 kilograms. In 1976, he qualified jumping as a paratrooper with 2 jumps, where the kit alone was 30 kilograms. Remember, he weighed 42. It was a wary situation when he did his first jump for the instructors, for they realized that his weight was possibly not enough to open his parachute. I think in today you have to be a minimum of 50 kilograms to qualify, at least as weight is concerned, as a paratrooper. Another difficulty Jordan experienced during selection was to carry the heavy combat equipment, but he made it. This was truly a great achievement for him and his instructors. That's why I thought it fits under the heading reunion. Now, when we get to naming people, and we have several, as you can see, not less than 35 children whose Christian name is Jordan. Now, not less than 35 children whose mother had or has or is a Jordan relative baptism name was given Jordan. You often got that with the mother or the wife was a Jordan, and then depending on how many children they had, one of the children were named, christened Jordan as a first name. Not only the sons, but a few girls as well. An occurrence which other families might experience as well is the situation where some families only had daughters. The youngest normally was given a father's name, which was often adapted to be more feminine. Just as a part of reunion, this is your Jordan Kroeg, a pub. In the clubhouse, this photo with this place is this is pub, your Jordan pub, because it's in Potchefstroom. Now, in 1992, during the early 90s, my friend Hercules Malan and I visited several master's offices in the country with a borrowed photocopier from a friend who worked at a photostat copy machine. We arranged in advance with the relevant masters to visit them. We loaded the copy machine in the boot of the car, and Hercules and myself went by appointment, believe it or not, to several masters' offices. We entered the office, and we took in our own photostat machine, so there was no cost involved for the office. And I drew all the Jordan and Malan estate files I could find, took them to Hercules somewhere in the building, who made the necessary photocopies of the death notices. And so we threaded through the relevant corridors to keep up with the times of the master's office. Remember, they've got tea time and beginning time and lock close time, with their rules about how many files could be taken at a time and so on. As you'll know, there was a stage where you could only get 3 files at a stage. We managed to arrange that as fast as I could carry and Hercules could make the photocopies, we could draw the files and put them back, of course. This exercise formed a thorough basis for the Jordan register at that time. Please keep in mind that in the 90s, our most advanced form of technology was the fax machine. After this, we worked through all the telephone directories and were able to mail 3,600 questionnaires to members of the Jordan family. What we got in the telephone directory was now and then there was a postal address, but then there was also the residential address, and we posted that and hoped for the best, and we got about a 10% return on what we posted. I think the range of telephone directories at that time was in the 35. There was a telephone directory, as the older ones of you will remember. There was for each, the biggest cities and the regions and the provinces and so on. That added to up, I think, 35, and we worked through all of them. You had to buy them from a post office. And now on the right-hand side, if you look at that Free State book, the Free State directory, you can almost say that it's an A5 page size. You can almost say the whole guide is as thin as paper. In 1995, we toured Europe and traveled 10,500 kilometers in 45 days en route of our ancestors. Some of the countries that we traveled were Switzerland, Austria, Italy, France, Germany, Spain, Netherlands, and Belgium. Now that's the end of what we refer to the heading in the past, up to from Adam and Eve up to 1995. Now we look at some happenings chronologically from 2002 to 2022. Remember the story of the Jordan when I worked on this and Alta asked, there are sources and informations available and you can go and read specific topics, specific places, but put the story as by requested by Alta, the Jordan story, to get that, to work that one out and put it chronologically from Adam and Eve up to today was quite something to work through and get it in order so that it makes sense. In 2002, spoken languages at that time by members of the Jordan bloodline was at least 8. Afrikaans, English with its different dialects across the world, Xhosa, Zulu, Danish, Swedish, German, and Dutch. I think today, if we had to add that, there will be a couple of, we could add to those 8 languages that members of Jordan family speak as a home language today, being spread all over the world. In 2005, I submitted my PhD, and the PhD was published in A5 book form. I might just mention that the summary that was written in the PhD at that time was written in 6 languages. The title of the PhD was The Jordan Family, a historical analysis of their genealogy and the establishment of a tourism route in South Africa. Now, here are the 6 chapters that the PhD was written about. The first one, the VOC, the Dutch East Indian Company, a liberation offer for the Jordan family to the Cape of Good Hope and the Jordan Brothers settlement in the Drakenstein Valley. Now, in the first chapter, of course, was the Jordan family. Question was asked, were they Waldensians or were they Huguenots? In the third chapter, the distribution and first experiences of the Jordan family in South Africa since 1741. That date being, that was more or less when the members of the Jordan family, of the John and Isabel's children and grandchildren started moving out of the Drakenstein Valley. Then the next chapter was the debate about and the development of culture, heritage, and cultural heritage tourism inside and outside the country's borders, 1985 to 2004. And then of significance for anybody that's interested in genealogy and heritage tourism, not just the Jordan family, is chapter 5 and chapter 6. Chapter 5 being the Jordan family's multicultural heritage, the contribution to and influence on genealogical, cultural and heritage tourism, and the establishment of specifications for a cultural heritage route. And then the last chapter, critical thresholds for the culture heritage route to the Jordan family. Now, please keep in mind that those of you who would be interested in a similar approach to your family and various bloodlines, chapters 4 and 5 is a benchmark that you could follow. And by adding your surname to the chapters, you have a great start for your family's cultural, genealogical, and heritage aspects. You have all heard the story of it's not necessary to reinvent the wheel. Now, here's a list of places and buildings, and there's 16 examples of what was places and various stadiums and schools that's been wherever in the community, right through South Africa and other parts of the world, that was named after a specific member of the Jordan family. If you look at that, there's blocks of flats, dams, farms, homes, hostels, music, old age homes, parks, plants, pubs, rivers, schools, stadiums, streets, suburbs, railway sidings. In total, there's 74 places of these 16 examples that's that was named after a specific member of the Jordan family. Now, it may seem strange covering 4,000 years of heritage when I say that should you remember only one slide tonight, then I'd like it to be the importance of the contents of this and the following slide. Here's a graph of that you can see how many places are named after a member of the Jordan family in the different regions as well as international. Somehow KZN, KwaZulu-Natal, has been omitted in this graph, but there are 6 places referring to a member of the Jordan family in KwaZulu-Natal. There's also a song written by Anton Goosen called Anna Jordan. Now, while I had to stay busy during the nerve-wracking time in mid-2005s, or rather attempt to distract myself after submitting the thesis and waiting for the results, I then decided to put the finishing touches on the first edition of the Jordan Register for publication. The result was that when the degree ceremony took place, the first edition of which covered 3 volumes, 1,488 pages, over 33,000 names, was also available. There were several who were mistakenly under the impression that the register was my dissertation. Now, here's an example of some software programs that's been used over the years that we had to make use of different programs and migrate from one program to the other one for various reasons. You can see Brothers Keeper, we used here in 91, 92. When we reached the amount of 3,500 names, it seemed to be the program couldn't handle all the names. Then we migrated to Genia. We reached up to 8,500 names, which was written by one of the Malan family members, which they used for their register. But the problem became later on that Genia was not Windows friendly. Then we migrated to Family Origins, which was a nice program. The first edition of the Jordan Register was published. But that program was discontinued. And then we had to move to Legacy. We decided on Legacy. The only disadvantage of Legacy, it does not have the option to publish in the De Villiers format. We'll talk about that a bit later. De Villiers format we did publish eventually was 63,000 names. In the register today, as we talk, we've reached just over 68,000 names in the register. 2009, an interesting phenomenon in my experience about sharing information on our Facebook page is when you ask members for certain information or you just share something interesting. Now, a good example, if you ask members on the Facebook page to complete an online questionnaire, there's not very big excitement about it. But when you share a photo of a member of the Jordan family excelling at the Olympics, you get a tremendous reaction. So Facebook, you must know how to use it and what's it used for. 2013, David, this is what you said your interest is. The registration of my family crest. More or less a 2-year process. The simplest I can explain this process is like rezoning a property for other use than present. Well, it's a much rewarding process though. The logo I've decided on would I asked to be added momentum at opus. If you had to translate that, it's keep in mind the purpose of your labor. Now keep in mind that this application was initiated in 2011 with the knowledge then available. Certain detailed specific requirements that the Bureau has, for example, the phoenix on top of the helmet and the detail around the crest. The color and the detail in the 3 blocks was designed according to the info I had to submit in essay form. Top left block depicts a boat of the Dutch East Indian Company in their colors at sea. Below that, you see the blood drops depicting the loss of lives because of a battle between state and the personal belief of many that did not accept the Catholic faith. In the block on the right-hand side, you see the half Jerusalem cross. 2014 was the first Family Heritage Festival that Johan Jordan from Pretoria started helping during exhibitions. 2016, Louise van der Walt began to help with the collection and searching of information. This resulted in us publishing volumes 2 and 4 of the 2nd edition as co-authors. It feels much longer ago, but in 2017, we received our first online questionnaire. And since then, it's become such a helpful tool, the online questionnaire. You can think with people being all over the world. 2017 also, we started a Facebook group called Adam and Eve to Jordan. 2018, I came across and met Bas Peters. Now, if none of us could resolve a possible link or detail about a specific person, Bas in most cases assisted us with a positive outcome. May 2019, my friend since 1990 and co-author Volume 1, Hercules Malan, passed away suddenly while on holiday with his wife. That was 2 weeks before we would have had our final meeting about the contents of Volume 1 with the title Van Adam en Eva tot Jordan. We were co-authors of Volume 1. When the idea of a virtual museum for the Jordan family came up, it was all exciting till you realize that not every webmaster can create a virtual museum and maintain it. Fortunately, Andre's wife, Moen Jordan, indicated that her husband could assist us. Since then, Andre is a curator of 2 virtual museums that we are involved in. The second edition of the Jordan Genealogical Register was published in 2022. It has 4 sections. You can see on your screen there. The first on your left-hand side is Volume 1, which is 1 part. Then Volume 2 is the descendants of Jan Jordan. Volume 3 is the descendants of Paul Jordan, and Volume 4 is the descendants of Louis Jordan. Now, Volume 1 consists out of 1 book. Descendants of Jan is 8 parts. Paul is 2, and Louis is also 8. That gives us 19 volumes, almost 7,000 pages. The differences between the first and second editions, Van Adam en Eva tot Jordan, 1424-2021, Volume 1, in 1 part, there is a register of the Jordan family, which indicates how they descend from Adam and Eve up to Reuben, son of Jacob, who was one of the 10 tribes of Israel. Furthermore, our Reuben's descendants moved to the southern parts of France, known as Gaul, during the British distribution of the 10 tribes. The register itself starts in 1424. The register that indicates the Adam and Eve bloodlines only found in Volume 1. We are short of 300 years of genealogy to be able to connect a complete bloodline from Adam and Eve up to today. In Volume 1, some factual information has also been adapted to information obtained from further research that was carried out after 2005. Now, since some purists are not comfortable with the legacy format of a genealogical register and prefer the de Villiers format, it became a serious challenge to export the legacy contents into a range of software programs that could eventually produce a de Villiers format of the legacy content. Eventually, it was done as is available in US format today. The one person that made this possible was Otto Diedrichs. Last year, we consolidated all the various links that we have about the Jordan research and various other links and info, and we compiled it into an electronic brochure, which works very well. Now, the future and beyond. During 2021-22, we finalized the constitution of the foundation. We had a look at about 15 different constitutions, and amongst others, the 3 that gave a lot of guidance and resonated with our objects were those of the Suid-Afrikaanse Akademie vir Wetenskap en Kuns, the VOC Foundation, and the Jakes Gerwel Foundation. We were a number of members of the Jordan family from a vast amount of background experience working on this, and mention must be made of Prof. Wannie Carstens, who, in spite of his busy program as emeritus professor, always found time when he was asked for his input. An important motivation for the introduction of the foundation, amongst other reasons, is to hand over the baton to the next generation, whom we think have a sound basis benchmark for the future. As part of the publishing portfolio of the Jordan family, we have 2 members of the Jordan Facebook group that have indicated that they would like to assist with this project. Wikipedia has its own criteria on how to submit your info. Now, what we offer since the publication of the second edition of the Jordan Register, which you saw entails 19 volumes and almost 7,000 pages to members, that's current, That's current info is unlinked in the second edition or is not complete. We offer them a descendant narrative book report once they have assisted us with the bloodline by getting it up to date. This encourages those that have an interest not to wait till the third edition is printed in future. This is just an example. Not many bloodlines can display a complete pedigree chart between 5 and 8 generations. Here's a rare 7-generational photo collage of my 2 grandsons with each of our sons. Now, Jordaan publications to look forward to. Please do yourself a favor and go and read this online article by Irma Jordaan of Montetjie, an excellent example of more than 200 years of this specific bloodline. This article has been accepted and will be published later this year. Theo lost his father at the age of 9, and the article describes the battle Theo had as teenager looking for his Jordaan family by bicycle in the 60s. A real touching story which will be published later. A third example is a 12-page article in the East Cape Genealogical Society that was published in February referring to a specific member of the Jordaan family, Jan Hendrik Jordaan, and his descendants who settled in Syfergat 8 generations ago in the Bailey area. Now, some unfinished business, it is still a challenge for us to follow the bloodline of ancestor John's 3 sisters and 1 brother who did not make the journey to South Africa. He left 7 cousins behind, which were all girls. I've started, but with a quotation of 3,500 rand per day, searching through archives in parts of France. It has stopped us in our tracks. Then just to add to uncompleted information, I might just add that recently we have been looking for church records in a certain area, which was part of the previous Homeland Dispensation, just to find that apparently the records were put in boxes to be stored. As the congregations change hands and boundaries, we might find this case to be a permanent missing link. Here's just a family page picture of the 2 of the 3 sisters that we have the info of our ancestor John's sisters. Their husbands were both married to men with the surname Roux, which we also referred to in slide 12. And a matter of interest, Roux was also from Beldensian origin. And then after many years of questions of what happened to our ancestor John's brother, Jim Hislop from Cape Town compiled this research report in this regard, a brief history of the 2 plots he had. And that answered many questions of what happened to him. The following 3 slides are just slides of books that's been published, or articles that's been written by different Jordaans about different Jordaan bloodlines. But you see the first book listed, written by Pierre Philip Jordaan, private secretary to Cecil John Rhodes. It was written in 1910. Now, Rhodes was of the opinion that if your surname was Jordaan, J-O-R-D-A-N, you should change it back to Jourdan, the French spelling J-O-U-R-D-A-N. That was his advice he gave to his private secretary, Philip Jordaan, which subsequently did that. Here's another list. Just another example of what was written. Here's another one that's written. Alta David, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, this presentation covered 4,000 years of history, heritage and genealogy referring to the Jordaan story. We looked at the following with specific attention to international, national and local incidents. We looked at my initial interest. We looked at the past from Adam and Eve through Reuben to Gaul to the Waldensian movement up to 1995. Then we looked at chronologically what happened between 2002-23, and we just had a look at some future plans and happenings. Thank you indeed for affording me this opportunity to share with you the Jordaan story, a story of 4,000 years. All the best to you all with your family research endeavors. Thank you.
Well, I've put a question in the chat, but I'm happy to ask it here as well. And that was just a note to say the information that thousands of people have added on Facebook is very valuable, but not everybody is on Facebook, and I don't trust it to be a permanent record. So I hope that valuable information that people are sharing on Facebook is also being stored offline in Martinez's records, and ideally, perhaps in an abridged form, shared on his website or another public forum, just so that more people can benefit from it.
Thanks, Francois. Martinez, would you like to respond to that?
David, yes, that's point Francois has touched here. You know, this World Wide Web that we work with every day. I'm still a favorite of a book form. Whatever information you've got should be published in a book form or in articles. The cyberspace, I'm not very comfortable. People add things on there are different programs, as you know, and think people are adding, the sources aren't correct, and you can chop and change as you want to. So Francois, I agree with you. The published form to me eventually is what we can work with.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'm joining from London, and I kind of wanted to follow up on a comment that you made. Firstly, what an amazing talk. I was absolutely blown away. You mentioned about possibly tracing some of the descendants in France and the prohibitive costs of doing research in the French archives. I just wanted to know if you'd done any work with the French Huguenot Society here in London, because they're quite active, and there's also quite a big collection at the archives in Kew. So yeah, interested to hear about.
Thank you, Daniel. Yes, I must say the last 6 months with all the different groups on the internet and Facebook, it's becoming a little bit more easier. So I've got a list of groups, but if you could assist with advice and so that will help. So I think I've got a feeling the last 2-3 months with the World Wide Web, and as you referred to, we could perhaps sooner than later get hold of those family members, the Roux family members that were left behind.
Daniel Jordan, I'm here from George in the Western Cape. Martinez, thanks a lot. It was a very, very interesting talk. I just need some confirmation. Can we therefore see ourselves as the sons of Jacob who are in the diaspora, seeing that we originate from from Reuben? Is my assumption right?
Daniel, I'm a bit careful to, at this stage, I concentrate on the genealogical line from Adam and Eve, Reuben, and so on. The wider I'm not fit to answer your question. That's a bit wider beyond the scope of what I do.
Well, for what reason then do you link up with the son Reuben then? Because I mean, if you link our forefathers with Reuben, that basically tells me 1 + 1 is 1, and then we must be the Israelites in the diaspora.
Yeah, I mean, you can see we link up with Reuben and then with his descendants, but that the whole topic about the diaspora and so on, I'm honestly, I'm not fit for that.
Okay, now great. Now if you haven't went into that depth, I understand that, but that's my observation from this side. Because I do follow quite a bit of Israeli ancestry, and I was always thinking by myself, that I can see myself as an Israeli in the diaspora. And now, the moment that you mentioned that we originate from Reuben, it just connected the dots for me. Maybe somebody else also got the same kind of feeling is on this talk here. Thank you very much.
Right, well, Matthias, thank you very much for a most informative talk. I can see from all the questions you got that everybody is very excited about the Jordan family, and especially those that are connected to it. I must say your publication was of a very, very high standard, and your talk was excellent. And for that, I'd like to thank you sincerely from GSSA. I'm sorry that we're not meeting in person, that we could maybe give you a little gift of some nice Cape wine or something to help you with your studies further, but that's not to be, that is not to be this evening. But thank you very much. And it has been recorded online, and I'm sure that once that is done, it will be published. So thank you very much. We had 61 attenders, which is, I think must be just about a record, and well done.
Thank you indeed, David. Thank you, Alta.
Dankie almal.